This video will cover the learning outcome on summarizing how observational learning works. So observational learning, also known as modeling, is a way in which we learn from other individuals. And one way I like to describe this is that sometimes it is easier to show than to tell. So imagine trying to learn how to dance salsa. And if I just explain to you, you move your left foot this way, you move your right foot that way, verbally, or even if you read it, it is much more difficult, or it will become much more difficult to learn it, or at least learn it efficiently, than if I actually was right in front of you, showing you how to dance and physically showing you. So observational learning can be of many benefits because of that. However, it has also been shown that there are some negative consequences to observational learning. Uh, many, numerous studies have been shown on how children can negatively be impacted by observational learning, specifically by television. And if television portrays too much violence, for example, in a television show that they watch, then those children are very likely to learn that behavior and model it as well, and act on it as well. So I'd like to start with an example that where that actually occurred to me in my lifetime, and I'll talk to you about my middle school experience. So when I was in middle school, um, wrestling was pretty big, was at a peak of its rating, and a lot of it had to do because of this individual right here in the front, known as Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Stone Cold Steve Austin was kind of like this redneck persona, played this redneck persona, and kind of like a rebel, didn't care about authority. And for some reason, my middle school friends, and myself included, really were attracted to this individual. We thought he was very cool. We all wanted to be him, and we all just idolized Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Stone Cold Steve Austin had this move that you see here, known as the Stone Cold Stunner. And here I'll show you a quick image of what it looks like. So you see it repeating over and over, where he kicks you, then grabs your neck and supposedly throws himself down and hurts your neck and all its exaggerating glory here. But that was the move that he was known for. And so in my middle school, you had a lot of boys, not myself though, but a lot of boys going around the school and just doing the Stone Cold Stunner on random people at all times. So either on their friends, on people they didn't know. And yes, one time a peer of mine tried it on a teacher. That did not go very well, but it was tried. And I want to talk about why then do we engage in this observational learning? Why does it appear easy? And talk about the nuances involved in here in observational learning, using the example of Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I want to talk about what's needed for observational learning to occur. And there's a couple of things, and I'll give you a list. First, we need a model who is prestigious. We need models who are prestigious. And what I mean by prestigious, and that's very subjective, but anybody that we believe has some sort of power, either because they have money, either because they attract a lot of people know them. So Stone Cold Steve Austin was this individual for us. He, in our eyes, in our middle school age eyes, he was very prestigious. We thought he ruled the world via wrestling. And so he was very prestigious. But think about all the other people out there who have prestige. Whether it's athletes, I personally think Kobe Bryant is very prestigious. Some people might say Michael Jordan is very prestigious, or other celebrities that you might think are prestigious, that are well known, or philanthropists like Bill Gates, who I think is very prestigious. So it's all of these people that appear to have some sort of power, again, whether it's real or not, but people know who they are and see them as prestigious. And so those are the people that we are likely to model. Think about when you are a child. Who do you see most prestigious? Your parents or your older siblings. And because of that, you probably see kids who definitely just copy their parents, copy their older siblings, because in their eyes, they are very prestigious individuals. So again, in my middle school days, Stone Cold Steve Austin was extremely prestigious. He just played this persona that attracted so much, and you saw it in because other people were talking about it. You saw it in the arenas in which he fought. People went crazy for him, and so he had all the uh, doings of a prestigious individual. The second thing that's needed for observational learning to occur is that the learner must be attentive and must remember the behavior. So I think television definitely allows for the attentiveness. A television um, and other medias, but television for sure, grabs our attention. And so via television, a lot of these models, these prestigious models, have been able to, get our attention and get us to listen to them. So that's one way in which I was for sure attracted to this individual. The other thing that I was able to do is remember the behavior of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I think it's because it elicited some emotion, some excitement around him. And so, what any time, and I'll talk about this when we talk about memory, some anytime that you're able to pair a moment with emotion, you are more likely to remember it, and that's what Stone Cold Steve Austin did. The third, the learner must be able to reproduce the behavior. So again, here is the Stone Cold Stunner where it'll show here. The learner must be able to reproduce this. To a great extent, we were able to reproduce this. I was able to reproduce it with my sister, unfortunately for her, but my friends were able to reproduce it with friends, other people in the school, because it wasn't too complicated. Whereas if, take for example, Batman. Batman, I think a lot of people, as a fictional character, see him as someone who's prestigious. And to some extent, we can reproduce some of the behavior, like some of the costumes that Batman wears, but it's going to be pretty impossible that anybody who's engaging in observational learning will do the other things that Batman does, like jumping through buildings and things of that nature. That is not going to be reproducible. Mostly just a costume in that regard. Here, the Stone Cold Stunner, which was what everybody talked about, his signature move, definitely reproducible, and so it allowed for observational learning. And finally, the fourth one: if learner is successful or rewarded, the learner is more likely to repeat behavior. And this is very important because what good is it for someone to do a Stone Cold Stunner and nobody to acknowledge that he did that my friend did the Stone Cold Stunner, or that there's just nothing there. And it's those moments in which people are laughing, or the students were laughing, or the students were applauding or saying, do it again, that the learner felt like he was being rewarded, that he was successful, that he accurately achieved what he wanted to do, which is replicate Stone Cold Steve Austin's behavior. And so, in receiving that reward, like we learned in operant conditioning, he was positively reinforced, and so he's more likely to repeat the behavior, and thus observational learning occurs, because with you repeat the behavior, you get the practice, and with more practice, you better do the behavior. And finally, I've been talking just about the violence involved, but as I mentioned earlier, observational learning can also have a positive thing and can lead to pro-social behavior when you show it. And so shows like Sesame Street that show pro-social behavior via this Big Bird character, someone who in the eyes of little children may have a lot of prestige. I know Elmo had a lot of prestige in my daughter's eyes. Those kids who watch them and see them as prestigious, will follow them because, like you said, one, the motto is prestigious. They see Big Bird, Elmo as prestigious. Two, the television set grabs their attention, and they're likely to remember it, especially because in these shows, song is involved, and song is very good for anybody, but also kids, to remember certain things. The third one being that it's a behavior that can be reproduced. Well, sharing, saying thank you, saying things like that, very easy for children to reproduce. And if it is rewarded, if a parent then rewards that behavior, saying, "Oh, thank you for saying thank you," or "Thank you for sharing," then the child is likely to reproduce that behavior as well.